Hey Stampers, I'm Meg from Loven Stamps and you are watching Maker Mornings with Meg, Thursday edition. I have a project to share with you today. One of the best things about this time of year, back to school, is the sale on back to school supplies. So if you are a little bit past back to school where you are, go ahead and check for these, because a lot of times these things are on like bargain sell. Stores want to get rid of them for like 10 cents. And that is a composition book. So when you're covering and doing DIY notebooks, the reason that I love composition notes books over spiral notebooks is that when you have a spiral notebook, you're always trying to figure out how to cover that spiral. And I do on my blog at Loven Stamps, I have a lot of notebook cover ideas, so you can look for that. But that spiral is tricky. There are some solutions, but if you work with composition books, you don't have to worry about those spirals. Pesky spirals are a pain. So I'm going to give you some tips on covering composition books. One of the things I like to look for is a color of composition book where the spine is the same kind of color scheme or fits the color scheme that I'm going to go with in my project, because it is hard to cover something that flexes like this. And since the notebook's already done that for you, usually they're a solid color. You can get purple or pink or red, but I kind of like the black ones because they're kind of neutral. So, all right, so composition book, and then what are we going to do with it? We are going to use a stamp set that I ordered because I love anything with a punch bundle, and I wasn't sure at the time what I was gonna do with it. So that is Fish and a Wish, which has this fun coordinating fish punch. So we're gonna go ahead and use this to make a fun rainbow project. And I know that it doesn't really like fit together in your mind right now, but we're also gonna use the Into the Clouds embossing folder. So yes, we're doing fish and clouds, but there's like a whole like kind of dreamer element about fish in the clouds, right? So I think you're gonna like how it comes out. So I have a whole bunch of tips for you on embossing, on stamping, on color selection, on embellishing, on how to mount your stamps for punching efficiently, all the good things. And I think we are ready to get started. And today's colors are inspired by the butterflies, which I realized I wore this butterfly print on our 300th episode last week. So that is kind of a fun repeat. So this is a different shirt with the same fabric, but anyway, the colors are going to be very reminiscent of our project today. So hello to everybody who's jumped on. Hey, Kathy and Trish and Terry and Carol and Sue and Tanya and Dominic and everyone. So all the people. So hey, glad you guys are here. And episode 301. So thanks everybody for all the congrats on episode 300 on the other day on Tuesday. So, all right, let's get our video flipped down here and we will get started. Yeah, Carol says she likes the dreamer element. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, I am kind of a big fan of that aspect of it. So, like I said, it's just such a pretty stamp set, and it gives us the ability to kind of do a little bit of something different here. So, all right, there we go. Okay, so I have my stamps here, and the basis for, or the background basis for our composition notebook is going to be this pretty Splendid Day Designer Series paper. So this was on the weekly deals last week. So here are these papers in case you didn't see them. I just used them the other day. I used the purple when we did our explosion box. And so, sorry, let me get a little bit, see if I can straighten our camera there. Is that better or worse? Anyway, I used the purple the other day, and we're gonna go ahead and use this gold here, which I realize has bees on it. So now we have clouds and fish and bees, but it is all gonna come together, I promise, and I'll show you our trick of how we are gonna do that. So this paper I love because it has this element at the bottom. It comes in, you know, a big sheet, and there's like this stuff coming up, and it's kind of seaweed-ish, just a little bit. So it makes me think about sort of a seaweed kind of idea, and gives us that chance to recreate that for our card. So kind of a perfect deal. Now, when we cover our notebooks, all right, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna, I know we're going with these like lined papers here instead of instead of my grid paper, but it's driving me a little crazy that the lines aren't straight. So let's see, is that better or worse? That is a little better. Okay, good. We're gonna leave it there. So I have my piece here that is cut to the right size. You're just gonna wanna measure your notebook with a ruler and go ahead and cut your designer paper so that it fits here. And I actually cut mine into 6 by 6 strips, or 6-inch wide strips. So it's 6 by the height of the notebook. And part of the reason I did that is because I wanted to be efficient with my paper. So I could have, of course, made it wide enough to cover, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it here like this. And then that lets me use a strip here on the side. Now, where did this strip come from? This strip came from this week's weekly deals, which include the rose gold specialty paper, which is a pack of 12 by 12 specialty paper in rose golds. And there's 3 different choices here in the package. There's this sort of brushed one, or it's not really brushed, it's like a muted matte color. There's this total shiny one, and there's this rainbow shimmer one. They're all gorgeous, and on the weekly deals this week just came out. So today's the first day of those weekly deals. They technically popped up yesterday, but you never know. They're supposed to come out on Thursdays. So, all right, so let's talk about how we're going to add this here. What I like to do is get it as close as possible, and then the chance of owning the corner rounder, which fits the corner round exactly, is super slim. So usually I just plan on getting this notebook just exactly where I want it, and then I come back with a pencil, generally a light color one, because I don't want it to show if I overlap a little bit, and just trace those corners and then cut inside your pencil line. And so that is going to give us a corner that matches our notebook, since we want to round those corners. And I'll go ahead and cut these, and then we're gonna go ahead and glue this down. Now, for the front of a notebook, this is something, sort of a utilitarian idea, something you're gonna wanna use. So there's our covered cup. And so I don't want to have a lot of like crazy layering, and I wanna make sure that things don't come apart. So I have my multi-purpose liquid glue here, which I might need a second one because this one's almost empty. And for once, I am not gonna use the tip here. I'm gonna shake it down, kind of like a thermometer. Make sure that you have the lid on when you do that, or you can make yourself a mess. And then I'm gonna go ahead and squeegee glue onto our notebook. I'm gonna try and keep it off the spine there, but I'm gonna try and go as close to the edge as I can. And the reason I like to put it on the notebook and not my paper is that it's just a little easier to control. I don't have to pick up the notebook. I'm just gonna set down onto it, okay? So I'm really close to the edge there without going over. And then I'm gonna take this strip first, there, and go ahead and stick this down. And I'm gonna go just a little bit over, since I went over my, on my glue. So there's that. And then I'm going to come back, and how much do I overlap here? Oh, enough that I better put another, one more strip of glue across here like this, okay? So just the same as a card, if you can see it, it is enough. This glue does not come off. It is a really, really tight bond. You just got to give it a second to grab, which is nice because it also lets you have a little moment of forgiveness if you need to shift your paper. So I really like it for something like this, where you might want to just nudge a teeny bit for your cover, okay? So then, of course, we would also cover on the back with another strip here, which I'll skip for the moment, but that gives us the front of our notebook. And now we have all of these fun fish to put on here. So what are we gonna do with the fish? So I tried to decide what colors I was gonna use, and what I finally decided was that the Splendid Day Designer Series paper would be a great way to feature colors. So why should I work on trying to pick what rainbow colors go together when on the back of the package, Stampin' Up! Has already told me what rainbow colors fit together. So I have Calypso Coral, I have Pool Party, I have Petal Pink, and I have Fresh Freesia. And then we also have some soft seafoam, which we're gonna use as paper, probably not as ink. But that's the rainbow. So I love it when the artists at Stampin' Up! Just make it super easy for me to do that. And if you don't have that particular package of paper and you're looking for inspiration, you can always flip through the catalog, because the designer series papers are shown in here, and they list the colors that are included in them. So, oh, do they? Oh, they don't anymore. Oh yeah, they do. Okay, they're in there. So like, for example, this one's Calypso Coral, Crushed Curry, etc., etc. So you can always use that as a wonderful tool when you're trying to select things. Okay. Now, I see some like run through here of the glue. That's gonna work out okay. We're not gonna see that in the end, so don't panic if you're like, oh my gosh, Meg, your paper is messed up here. It's gonna be okay. All right, so let's get our stamping down. And for this, I have the Fish and Wish stamp set, and I have I'll unmount these momentarily. I have our 2 stamps that fit the fish builder punch, okay? And to do this, now I could like stamp 1, stamp 2, punch 1, punch 2, but it is so much more efficient to just go ahead and do them at the same time. So to do that, I need to mount them on a block so that they match. So you're gonna take a piece of scrap cardstock. You could use scrap just like notebook paper, but honestly, it's so much easier with cardstock because you can really sit the stamps in there, and see how I'm nudging them back and forth. I'm actually kind of feeling so that I can get them like centered in there, so that they're centered in the punch pieces. And then I'm going to pick them up with a block just like that, and we're going to go ahead and stamp. And I'm going to do a test stamp first, and then go ahead and punch it before I do like, you know, all of them here. Remember, you're gonna think about which way your punch is gonna run into the cardstock when you do your stamping, so that you don't accidentally make it hard for yourself to punch. And with Stampin' Up! Punches, of course, you always use them upside down so that you can see what you're doing. And I did a pretty good job there of lining up those punches. So there's 2 fish. The fish have little fins actually also that you could also add to your fish, but I'm gonna go ahead and do without those. Okay, so we have our fresh freesia. Now I have my pool party. Of course, you're going to want to wash your stamps. Just a little quick clean there. And then I'm gonna go on to pool party. This paper is a little bit short, and I want to have 2 of each one. So there's pool party, and then we're gonna go back with petal pink and stamp another fish or 2. There we go. And then finally, I'm going to add a Calypso Coral, couple of fish. And so this is just a darker tint of of the petal pink, so I'm not gonna freak out about washing my stamp. So if you're like, oh, what are you doing? It's just a darker color, so it'll be okay. All right, so we've got our fish stamped, and then of course we have the super quick going and punching them out. So there's the Calypso Coral, here's another Calypso Coral, there's the petal pink, there's another petal pink. So you can see kind of how quickly this kind of notebook could come together. And of course, this is why I love punch bundles. I love the stamp and punch, and how quick that is to just kind of whip out a whole bunch of a fun image. Oh, this one's missing a tail. That's okay. All right, so we've got our fish here, and now we're ready to start putting them together. Now, if I start putting them here on our notebook, just kind of like so. Let's figure out how the order is going to be. I think we're going to do rainbow with purple, the fresh freesia at the bottom, and then the pool party, and then the petal pink and the Calypso Coral. We're going to leave off the green for the moment because there's not enough space for it. And so we have our purple fish that are going to go down here. And then we have our blue fish that are gonna come next. But they, I feel like, are a little bit lost on the cover of our notebook here. So this is one of those cases. I always say you want like a home base to really give your images some weight so that you have created a focal point that's strong. And so I thought, you know what, vellum would be great because I don't want to cover up all of our pretty paper here. So we have some vellum here to add. But then I thought, okay, this is where that cloud folder is going to come in because it is so pretty. Here's a picture of it here. And where's my actual folder? There it is. Here's our cloud folder. So what I can do is I can emboss my vellum. I love dry embossing vellum because it comes out so nice and crisp and clean. So I'm just gonna line that up. So this vellum here is 6 inches tall because that's how tall the folder is by 5 inches wide. And I'm gonna run this through my die cut machine. And then we get this result here. So like this. Okay, and I think hopefully you guys can see that pretty well in the video. A really, really pretty texture. And you can decide whether you want the extra texture up or down. I'm gonna go ahead and put it down here so we don't catch stuff on our notebook, all right? And then I'm gonna move this, remember our bee friend up here, we're gonna cover the bee friend by putting this up pretty high, okay? Now, the tricky part of this is that you have to glue down the vellum, but remember your adhesive is going to show. So you have to go ahead and find some places to attach it. And to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and add our fish first. So we're gonna start adding some fish. And you know what, I'm gonna live dangerously. And now I need my glue the other direction. I'm gonna live dangerously and go ahead and like glue as we go. So I'm gonna get this out of the way. And I'm gonna put some glue maybe just on the top half of this fish. So apparently he's gonna swim this way. The fish I think are fairly like universal. They go kind of both directions here. And so I'm gonna just stagger them a little bit. And normally, of course, I would love to use Stampin' Dimensionals for something like this. But on this particular project, I don't really want to use Stampin' Dimensionals because I don't want to have too much conflict in like grabbing stuff. You know, if you slide it into a bag or something, you certainly don't want to have things kind of stick out in the wrong place. So, all right, and then, oops, that's our fish that's missing a tail. Let's get a different one here. And I think we need this smaller fish that fits here. Let's see, we'll put him down here. And we're gonna add this one here. So what do you guys think about this? Does anybody use notebooks who isn't a student? I definitely do. I love having them for like just keeping track of lists and things like that. And I'm gonna, let's see, pop another one on here. I love having them for keeping track of lists and all the things sort of in daily life. And I'm gonna go ahead and swap directions on these two. All right, and then let's see, we have our next color, which is the petal pink. And I don't really like to have our fish like totally nose to nose crashing into each other, but I think we're okay if they're close together. Here's another. So they're like a school. One of the fun things about this project too is that you can really put any greeting on it that you want. So you can have any sentiment about like happy days or you know, living a life to your fullest or taking time to do the things that you want to do. Any kind of happy reminders that you would like to include in your day if this is something that you're going to use on a regular basis. And plus, notebooks make a terrific gift. There's really a lot of reason to do notebooks as gifts. They're just a fun thing, especially when they're so pretty. All right, and then we're gonna finish up with our Calypso Coral fish here at the top. And you can see our rainbow coming together and our kind of pretty fish spacing. I'm not like lining them up in rows. I'm kind of staggering them as we go, which makes them look a little bit more organic, which is kind of perfect for our fish theme, right? And let's see, do I have enough of our, I might need one more of these guys. Should I do it this way? I think he meant to go this way, especially since the one below him goes the other way. Okay, all right, so let's take we'll take our extra fish and set them aside just in case we need them. But we're gonna bring our fish here back to our notebook cover. Now, what we have done is we have created a whole lot of attachment points, which actually brings me up to one more. I'm gonna go ahead and add one more fish up here, and I'll tell you why when we do our attaching here. So I'm creating a whole bunch of attachment points for our panel. So now I'm gonna flip it over, and any place where there's a fish, I can be pretty free with my glue, including the fish heads and tails. There's a funny stamping project you never thought you would, stamping terms you never thought you'd use, fish tails. We're gonna go ahead and pop some glue on them so that our element here stays whole, nice and glued down. So, all right, and then usually what I like to do with this is just put a couple big blocks on to make sure that it gets nice and well adhered here. So then we can work on our next element to go on our fish notebook project. All right, so there we go. All right, and I'm gonna bring in, like I said, a couple of blocks. Here we'll reuse our fish blocks that we've got here on hand. Actually, I'm gonna need those in a second, but that's okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna set that aside for a moment, and we want to add a greeting to our piece. So we have, I really like this one that says "Here for You" because it's all occasion, and this is a fun thing that you could just add to a notebook that you're gifting to someone. So I have a piece of petal pink cardstock here, and I'm going to go ahead and use this swish to decorate the petal pink, and then I'm going to use our "Here for You." So I'm gonna snag this and stamp it here in petal pink on there, and I'll put it back. And then I'm gonna take our little greeting, and I'm gonna bring in Calypso Coral, which is a little darker, and go ahead and pop that on there. So we have our greeting added, and then I'll add our string or thing back there. Now, this could go on, any place like this, but I would love to decorate this to make it a little bit more exciting. And so I'm gonna bring in our lovely labels Pick a Punch. So the supplies for everything here are in the video description. So whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, you'll be able to look at those. And the links for shopping there are included. But we're gonna talk about this punch because it is super fab for 1 inch or less strips of paper. So it's designed so that you can pick a 1 inch piece, a 3/4 inch, or 1/2 inch piece. And our piece here is a little bit too wide. So we're gonna bring in our trimmer, and I'm gonna show you a tip about trimming here because, so you're like, this has happened to me before. Raise your hand if this is you. You trim off a little, and then you trim off a little more, and you trim off a little, and you're like, it's the wrong size, and it's not centered, and it's a mess, okay? So this is how you're gonna use your trimmer to get everything centered the way you want it. All right, so I am going to go ahead, and I'm putting this on here, but I'm looking here at the 1 inch lines. So see this 1 inch right here? So what I'm doing is I'm centering my piece so that my element is between this 1 inch line. And now I know that it's gonna fit, it's gonna center the design element in the center of that. When you close your trimmer, there's this little handle. All you have to do is put your finger on it, and it will trap your paper, even if you can't reach it. It does such a great job of holding that paper in place. I adore this trimmer. All right, so now I can bring this back and center, get this right at 1 inch again. So I'm lining up the edge now because I've got my design centered. Oh, I don't think I got it very straight. You could also even put, here is a teeny little tip. You could put a teeny little bit of adhesive on the back, a little tiny bit of seal, so that it doesn't shift, doesn't twist when you put the lid down. There you go. And then run that across there, okay? And now I have my elements where my piece is centered and it's exactly where I want it, okay? So there is a tip for you on how to kind of center your stamped elements. So let's go ahead and trim a little bit at the end. I'm gonna drop this in here. When you're using these punches, you're just gonna slide it into the tray, and sometimes you have to nudge it down a little. And then always flip it to the back side to make sure that it is all the way in. And then I'm gonna open that up, and so now we have one cute end. And then this end, I want to be about here, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm gonna slide that back in and punch the other cute end. And like I said, you can pick which size you want, and you can pick which design you want, and you have a really fun little a label there to go on your project. All right, I think our notebook's dry, so let's bring this back in here. And yep, very nice. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put our label. Now, we could be done. We could just stick that done and be finished, but I really thought that it needed some kind of like planty thing. And I didn't wanna stamp on here because I don't wanna stamp on the metallic cardstock. But I decided to bring in a punch. Now, like, shame on me. This is the punch that I needed, the bow punch, because I love this little plant. It works great for like little seaweed-y kinds of things or little branches. And shocker of shocks, I don't own it. Like, how did that happen? So my next order is definitely going to include that. But I do have the retired branch punch. So if you have this one, you could use it also. And I'm wishing I had the other one because I like the shape of it a little bit more. But I'm gonna go ahead and incorporate that seafoam green that we had picked out from our colors and add some little seafoamy kind of element here. Now, these are gonna be, I'm just gonna pop them down here towards the bottom, and I want it to kind of look like there's a seaweed bush kind of down here, like this, okay? Now, normally I would get that arranged exactly like there where I love it, and I would put dimensionals on the back. I would just pick it up and pinch it and put dimensionals on the back, but we can't use dimensionals on a notebook cover. I mean, you could, just a little trickier. But instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring in my craft sheet because I don't wanna get glue on my table surface here. And I'm going to add some multi-purpose liquid glue to the back, and I don't want this to all shift while I'm trying to work with it. So I'm just gonna add a bunch like this, and then I'm gonna take a strip of cardstock here, and I'm gonna pop a strip of cardstock across there, okay? And that is going to trap all those little elements where I want them, so that now I can come back with my glue and do a little bit more gluing here. So I'm gonna add some more glue. I'm gonna actually glue each one of these little dots, which I normally wouldn't do on a card, but I don't want them to get all like trapped and mangled here in somebody's backpack or purse or whatever. You could also even like make a little plastic sleeve for something like this. Or you could take like clear contact paper and you could cover the top of it. But now we have our whole element here to add to the bottom corner of our notebook. Again, you want to make sure that you get a nice solid bond. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop our block down there, and I might just hold it for a second. I'll put a block on. All right, so what are we missing from our notebook? We are missing, of course, some bling. Now, the bling for this one, you could do all kinds of different things, but I so love these brushed metallic adhesive back dots. Especially we have like these rose gold ones and these gold ones here that really match our project. So I'm gonna go with a rose gold because we went with this rose gold strip here from the September weekly deals. And I'm going to add some of these to our notebook. Now, you of course run the risk of some of these getting like lost from the project. So I'm gonna put one there to emphasize that. And then I'm gonna do like a scatter thing here. And I'm gonna just put a ton of these around our fishiness here, just as a scatter. And oops, that one ended up kind of in a line. I usually try to avoid having things be on horizontal or vertical lines. Sometimes you can move stuff over just a teeny bit if you get your fingernail under it. And let's see, okay. There we go. That's going to be our last one. All right. So now we have a super fun notebook and the really great ability to decorate things and have them be ready for back to school. So remember, of course, we would go ahead and decorate the back side of our notebook also. And that gives us some fun things to be making for back to school. So I don't know, do you guys check out your big box stores for all of the possible places that you could get good, great notebooks? I end up with kind of a stash each year sometimes. So there's a lot of good possibilities for that. All right, well, we have come to the time in our video where I promised to do some drawings for some fabulous stamping prizes for comments that were placed last week, or placed this week on our, I've got my computer messed up here, comments that were placed last week, or Tuesday, when we did our video, and I have some fun embellishments to share with people, and these are from last year's fun catalog, and I have 2 for our Facebook winners and 1 for our YouTube winner, and let me grab those here. So we have our drawing here, which is set on last week, and so the winner, drum roll please, of the glue dot, adhesive backed hexagons is here. And so the first winner of those from our comments left last week is Sue Van Wakeman. Woohoo! Yay, Sue! And so Sue, I will work on getting those to you. And our second winner is from our comments left on last week, Kelly Sheridan. So here are yours, Kelly. So I will be getting those to you. And from our YouTube comments, we had our, let's see, let me grab these from our YouTube comments. And sorry, I didn't grab these and write them down before. That would have been good. Our YouTube comment winner is Carol Alanis. So Carol, congratulations there. And I will reach out to you for your contact information and on getting those things to you guys. So anyway, thank you guys for participating in our 301st video today. I hope that you're ready to go out and hunt up some of those fabulous specials for the back to school supplies that are on everywhere right now, and make some fun things for them. So I will be back on Tuesday next week with another Maker Mornings with Meg's session, or season 2 of Maker Mornings with Meg. We are Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 9:30 a.m. So I will look forward to seeing you then. And 9:30 a.m. Central Time, or you can watch replays later on both Facebook and YouTube. So congrats to winners of the drawings, and we will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend and happy stamping.